TikTok, it's time to rock. Welcome to the show, folks. Welcome to the Ranking of the Tracks, the #1 stream on the channel. And it's my pleasure as ever to introduce the team, the cohort, the colleagues, the Rock Professor.
Yes.
Morning.
And Brad from the new production office based in Melbourne.
Yes. The I'm calling it. I don't know. I've got to come up with a pretty cool name for the studio here. It's got a real Beatles vibe going on, as you can see. So, you know.
Well done.
Brad's Beatles Beach Hut, yes.
Maybe I can call it my own Abbey Road studio. I don't know. We'll work it out.
Something like that.
You don't live in Abbey Road.
No. We'll call it something. I don't know. Hey, Bulldog Studios.
And during the green room session before we went live, folks, the Rock Professor was showing off about the heat and the summer sweltering that he's having to endure while Brad and I are shriveling in our parts of the world.
Actually,
Freezing.
What it proves is how pathetically unprepared we are in the UK when you get 90 degrees plus, and all I've got is a fan. We haven't got air conditioning in the house or anything like that. We just have to lie there and go, oh, it's really hot.
Yeah.
Wow. Give me the heat over the freezing cold any day, I say.
Yeah.
Mate. Yeah. Look, I certainly appreciate the change in seasons, and you get to a stage, guys, when you get a little bit older, and it's something that we're allowed to do because we are getting older, so we're allowed to complain a little bit. But halfway during the season, you kind of look forward to the next season change, don't you? And then and when you get that season, you look forward to the other season change. So I'm at that stage of life, Simon and Brad.
Yeah, well, it's a very chilly. It feels like 9 or 10 degrees here Celsius, but Melbourne's only about 15 degrees here, and it's very chilly.
Wow.
A bit of rain about. So yeah,
that's quite balmy. That's a balmy 15 degrees. That is, Brad. Blimey, you might have to put a jumper on. Steady now.
Well, I've got 3 layers on today, so
yeah.
3 layers.
Go.
And there's electrical
Jacket.
electrical undies.
thermal.
Anyway, back to work. Good to see you guys. Some great views on last week's show, fellas.
Yeah. We're doing really well. Thank you everyone who's watched us 3 knuckleheads talking about the Black Crows and Jimmy Page. But
quite astonishing, isn't it? Quite
we really
astonishing.
appreciate it. And the positive feedback we get, which is fantastic. So we always
and that's
appreciate
basically all we do. We just get together and we have a bit of a chat and share thoughts, opinions, and ideas. And as ever, if anybody ever wants to come on and be part of this, we've put out a few invites lately, haven't we, guys? And we look forward to people coming on and hanging out with us. I want to do a special shout out before the Rock Professor does the official shout out to our brother John ZD351, who we haven't seen in the chat for a while. We know he's busy, obviously doing busy things, but I'd like to do a special shout out to him because we do miss him. He's a big part of the show, Brad.
Yes, we miss his cheeky comments in the chat there, and coming on the show as well. So yeah, very cool. We do miss you, mate. Look forward to catching up.
And and I should say that I am today wearing my Guitar Hack T-shirt in honor of our mate Guitar Hack up in Canada, who's just past 5,000 subscribers. So congratulations, Hack. Well done. I know it's been a long time coming, but well done for passing 5,000 subscribers.
Well done. That's quite an achievement. That's quite an achievement. Well done.
Cool. Yeah.
Awesome.
And he's stolen all our ranking ideas and doing them with other people, which is disgraceful. No, he isn't. No, isn't that right?
People have been stealing ideas off me.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but people have been stealing ideas off me all my life, Brad.
Yes.
I know.
I feel the same way.
Lucky to have some.
Yeah.
No, good luck. One other thing too, guys, that we should probably talk about also is that we've got Jim here in the chat as well. So it's always a pleasure to see Jim, another co-host who's filled in the hot seat for us a few times and popped on. So it's always a pleasure to catch up with Jim. And I want to remind people too that Jim has a Instagram account, as well as our good friend here on the panel with us, Brad Cook Music.
Yep.
A good friend of ours, Simon Williams, 33.
Yep.
On there as well.
Yes, I'm so active.
If you go and check out Brad at Brad Cook Music, there'll be a link there to his TikTok account too. And I can't tell you what he's doing over there on that TikTok account. You're going to have to go over there and find out yourselves if you want to find out what he's doing. But it's something that we don't talk about here on the channel, what people do on TikTok.
I'm not allowed, too old to go on TikTok. It's on banned. Quite rightly too. Quite rightly too. Should be allowed on it. It's for young people.
So if you want to get another side of what Brad is and what he does, check out his Instagram, and that'll take you to his TikTok account. They won't be disappointed, will they, Brad?
No, definitely not. And it's for a long time I always thought it was Tic Tac account, not TikTok. So that shows a way. You know what I mean?
Tic Tac Toe.
5-1 on, yeah.
We better kick the show off too soon, guys. We've got some good friends here in the chat. The Rock Professor's going to do a shout out, just to remind you also too that to hit that notification button, because we've got a special show coming up next week. We're not going to do any rankings. You might remember a couple of shows ago we said that we're going to intersperse between the ranking shows here, between the three of us. We're going to do some kind of interesting subjects, and we're going to talk about our favorite or top. It doesn't matter whether they're favorite, top, but we've certainly, between the three of us, picked 3 debut albums that we particularly enjoy. So we're going to spend some time, pretty much like we do with the ranking of the tracks, Brad and Simon, just doing a bit of an intro on the album. And the three of us talk about it, and then we'll move on to the next pick. So I'm certainly looking forward to that, Brad and Simon.
Yes, can't wait.
Yeah. Bit of fun, bit of mixing it up. That'll be good fun.
Can't wait. It's going to be a fun show. And, it's one of those shows that, we could probably do every 6 months, because your favorite albums, some of them are set in stone, but some of them you're going to change quite frequently as well. So.
but debut albums, that's an interesting twist, I think. Trying to introduce something, some bit more left field stuff as well. Because I like it. But
yeah.
Awesome. No, we'll look forward to that. So again, as ever, we invite you in the chat too to, while we're talking about our 3 picks of debut albums, not favorite albums, debut albums that you particularly like, bring your list of top 3, or if you want to be smart and cheeky and ahead of us, put them in there now today.
Yeah.
Beat us to the punch.
Beat us to the punch. Why not?
Yeah.
Simon, you want to do a shout out?
Yeah, let's do a shout out. We've got 11 people watching this morning, so good morning to everyone. Got Ellen, of course. Good morning, Ellen. Hope you're well. What's going on? We've got Jim, Jazz Thunder 50, Johnny Heartbreaker. Nice to see you, Johnny. Hope I'm not crackling this week, Johnny. I'm relying on you, my sound person, to tell me if I am. I don't think I am. I've done extensive testing this week. to try and eliminate it, and I may have done. We'll see. 10 minutes in. So that's everyone who's made a comment. So good morning to everyone, and please make a comment, and we'll give you a shout out. That'd be lovely.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Fantastic. So obviously, guys, the title of the show is the disc 3 of this wonderful collaboration between Jimmy Page and the Black Crows, Simon and Brad, that we've had the pleasure to rank. And I think, you know, without giving too much away before the official conclusion of the package, something that we've particularly enjoyed. Not just individually, but I think collectively, you know, the music has been pretty phenomenal. And I thought the second disc was my favorite, but after listening to the third disc for the last week, I'm going, boy, jeepers, there's some good stuff on the third disc, Brad.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I'm glad we're going to be covering some of the soundcheck stuff too, because there's some good stuff there. You know what I mean? I don't want to spoil it too much because I've got my opinion on the soundcheck stuff. Because I'm in a band that, you know, we go do gigs and we what do you call it? We do sound checks. You know what I mean? And I know what sound checks are like. Sometimes the singers don't want to give 100% because they want to save their voice for the performance, which in my opinion is completely and utterly acceptable, because you want to save your voice for the actual performance. But by golly, does Chris Robinson go for it in these rehearsals, I mean, in sound check. So, you know, back in that day, I guess, he was a younger guy. He was going for it. He didn't mind. He had the vocal chops and went for it. And, yeah, it was great to really listen and sink my teeth into disc 3. But I think out of the 3 disc, gentlemen, this is the one that I haven't had as much listening time with until this week. I have heard it, obviously, because when it came out, I put the 3 disc on. But, yeah, I reckon the first 2 disc got the majority of my time since it's been released. So it was good, a great exercise. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a kind of to me, this is like the completest bit, isn't it? This is the completest bit for the committed fans. I think that really for me, the meat of it is in the first 2. It's in the first 2 discs, and then this is for the completest bit. But,
yeah,
been interesting to listen to this week. Yeah. Nevertheless enjoyable for sure.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Jeez, I like that, Andrew. Thank you. The little thank you, dude. I saw that.
Yeah, thank you, bro. Thank you. And that was a wonderful segue, bro. I appreciate that. And I think, you said it all, and I have to agree with everything that you said, because that's exactly my view too. The first 2 discs, and, you know, this one here sort of hasn't been put on the spin, Simon, but boy, there's some great tracks on here. So I look forward to spending some time hanging out with you guys talking about them. So, Simon, do you want to kick it off?
Yes. So, so disc 3 starts with "Oh Well," which is clearly a cover of the old Fleetwood Mac song. I was quite interested. I did a bit of research on why they chose it, because it seemed, you know, I don't know, it's an odd choice, but it does seem a bit of a left field choice. I was thinking, I don't know. So apparently they chose it because they felt it was a natural fit musically and historically, a song that bridged their shared blues, love, rock influences, while offering room for interpretation of guitar interplay.
Yeah.
So, you know, they thought that it was a nice homage to Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac, you know, from the late 60s. And, you know, Jimmy Page clearly, you know, respects Green for his work and that early stuff. And they come from the same blues rock kind of, you know, roots that you know, that Led Zeppelin, Free, everybody else came from. So you could see. And so as I say, I was quite interested to see that they, because I've not particularly heard, Page go in that direction before. So it was quite nice to see that he picked it out. So it's I mean, it's clearly it has that thing. It's got. I mean, with 3 guitars, you've got a chance to really, and the opening riff is pretty heavy, isn't it? With the 3 guitars doing it, wow. They've got the sound, and then they clearly worked out quite a lot of parts. So you got 3 guitars playing the riff with the harmony playing, and then some 2-part harmony stuff. And Jimmy Page plays a sort of typical Page solo, fast, energetic solo, lots of notes, flurries, and then sort of bit hold, and then flurry again. Fantastic. And it has again that massive kind of sound and the really big driving drum sound. So it's a great version. I think I give it a 9 out of 10 and never a skip. We've got Brad.
Yeah, well, I agree. I mean, look, who doesn't like "Oh Well" by Fleetwood Mac? I think there's something about Jimmy Page that he secretly, maybe not so secretly, admires Peter Green, because a lot of his push-pull pot stuff on his Les Paul was to get that out-of-phase tone, which, in his eyes, he called it the Peter Green sound or the B.B. King sound. And he uses that sound in this song. And I think, like you said, Simon, the research I come up with as well was they did actually, it was that bridge between what Jimmy Page and the Black Crowes, that was that bridge between the two of them, that sort of that blues rock thing. Fleetwood Mac, being Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac, I'm talking about, was a big influence to both of them. So it's an iconic song, and let's be honest, perfectly suited to this lineup. And it really just sort of gives a bit of homage to that British blues. They're heroes of the British blues rock as well. Jimmy Page, I mean, he's got that Les Paul crank through a Marshall, that tone. It's mid-range heavy, and he does go to that out of phase, that glorious out of phase sound as well. What else have I got here? His phrasing is so tight. He gives the riff a bit of a heavier feel than the Peter Green sort of original. Rich Robinson and Audley Freed, look, they both hold that weight and texture of the song on the grittier side, giving some dirty textures there. They're also giving that wall of sound guitar wise. So when Page is playing, you still got that real solid wall of guitars, which is it really enhances Jimmy Page's playing. Sven on the P bass, and it's gritty, it's round, it thumps, does all the right stuff, fills all the gaps, and sustains there, hits some instrumental breaks perfectly. Steve Gorman, I mean, we've spoken a lot about him in the last 2 episodes. He brings that percussive flair to the intro, and he locks in with a low, fat snare sound. The groove's really swinging once it kicks in. It's slightly heavier than the Peter Green sort of direction. And look, I've always loved this song, and I think, most cover versions of it I have heard, I really dig. But I think the song itself is one of those songs that, unless you try to, step away from the vibe of the song too much, it's going to sound good. But being that it's the Black Crowes with Jimmy Page, it sounds excellent. I'm going to give it 10 out of 10, guys, and never a skip. Andrew.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thank you for your wonderful points of thought there on this great song. Just want to share Alan's comments there, 10 out of 10, and great guitar from the boys, complemented well by the vocals. Look, I have to agree with everything that you guys have said. One of the great things about the song is that it's truly a rocker, isn't it? This is a rocker of a song. And, you know, most versions I've heard over the years have been pretty faithful. And that's what I like about this song. The intro is pretty faithful to Fleetwood Mac, but the dead giveaway is the solo. That's definitely Jimmy Page. It's 100% Jimmy Page. And that's the magic about this song. And I'm going to remind other Fleetwood Mac fans this when we're talking on our Facebook group about this album, when I put a link to it, by saying to people, go and check out their version of this song, because a lot of Fleetwood Mac fans will know this song, Brad. Yeah. And also kind of our normie friends as well, because they'll know all the songs off Rumours. They'll know Albatross, and a lot of people will know this song. And they might think that it might be someone else singing this song, Simon, not Fleetwood Mac. They might think that it's Edgar Winter, you know, or you know, who's the guy that passed away recently that played with Edgar? The guitar player. Yeah, you know, I've heard. Yeah, Rick. Yes. Yeah, Rick Derringer. You know, I've had conversations with people that thought that it was Rick Derringer, you know, singing this originally. So, and you can't kind of understand why they would think that. But one of the great things about this song, Brad, as you've said, is that that wall of guitar sound from the other guitar players have given Jimmy Page that wonderful opportunity for him to go and do what Jimmy Page does. And I think the song's a phenomenal interpretation of what Page wants to do with the song, and he got away with it. And it's a complete example for me of what they were trying to achieve. And because of that, I have to give it a Brad score. I think it's a great interpretation of a great song. And Simon, never a skip.
Well done.
Do you think I did it down with only a 9 out of 10?
Quite possibly.
No.
Oh, yeah. No, that's fair enough, isn't it? Yeah. So, track 2 is a song called "Hey Hey What Can I Do," which is I don't know, probably. Oh, there he is, Mr. John ZD351. Good morning. Hope you're well. Hope you're all right.
Hey, John.
Good. Fantastic. He says he's been well. So
we're just talking about you before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
good stuff.
Was
I promise.
Some of it.
Yeah. Cool. Anyway, so yeah, welcome, John. I'm glad you're fine. That's good. Yeah. So, Hey What Can I Do actually has been previously released, but Rizzy came out as a B-side of the Immigrant song as a single, which is, I don't think it was released here, it's released in the States. But I've got it on a single. Sadly, it's in a cupboard over there, and I can't get it to it easily. It's barricaded in by my band gear, so I couldn't get it out. But basically, it's a kind of more acoustic. I mean, 1970s when they were doing Led Zeppelin 3, so more of acoustic-y thing. It's got the original's got kind of light guitar and mandolin as well, which kind of gives it that folk edge. And they got mandolin on this one as well. It's clearly a bit heavier because that's what they're doing. But I mean, I think that this is I've always loved this song because I think it's got a great melody, great chorus, and almost, you know, it's about as poppy as Led Zeppelin whoever would get, really. But I could see with that folk edge. Love the mandolin. I think, you know, anything with a mandolin on is a good thing. Mr. Walton's a great aficionado of the mandolin, so it's you know, it's so it's nice to hear, and it gives it a real kind of different vibe, you know, different piece of coloration than I used it before on any of the other tracks, and so that's really nice. Bass and the drums just holding it down. There's a bit of piano, great singing by Chris Robinson. I think, you know, he does. You know, it's interesting, isn't it, that they that they, you know, what they chose for him to sing out of the Led Zeppelin catalogue and things. And apparently, he sort of wanted to keep away a bit from the Robert Plant vocal histrionics, you know, and stick with a bit straighter stuff. So, as I say, for me, it's a lovely kind of swinging melodic song, a bit heavier than the original, but and some nice lads backing singing towards the end. It's quite loose and hey, what can I say? That's just quite fun. Yeah, that's fun. It's good. So again, I give this a 9 out of 10 and never a skip. As I say, it's one of my favourite little backwater Led Zeppelin songs. So, Brad.
Awesome. Hey, Jacob Fish.
Yeah. Hey, what can I do? I mean, Simon, you've kind of summed it all up. It is one of my sort of favourite songs from that era of Led Zeppelin, around that Zeppelin 3 sort of era. I love it. Obviously, they stay fairly true to the, Zepp original arrangement, but it's got a little bit more electric guitar presence and a bit grittier than the original, which I like. I think it gives a bit of edge. Jimmy Page, he's slightly rougher and more ragged tone, still tasteful though, and adds a bit of bite to that tone. I think they got that dynamic between the other two guitar players, really just sort of keeping it fairly true to the original as well. I'm not sure who's playing mandolin, whether it's Audley or Rich. I would say when I'm listening, it's right in the left-hand speaker in my headphones, so I'm assuming it's Audley because most of his stuff is on that side. But yeah, Chris Robinson's vocal, you said it perfectly there, Simon. He's not trying to out Robert Plant. He's just delivering it with a bit of heart and expressing it in a grounded way, the best way he can do. And I've put here great backing vocals because I love it when the boys in the band have to step up and do the BVs, just to really fill out that sound. So well done to them. And guys, I have to give it 10 out of 10 and never a skip. It's fantastic. Andrew.
Yeah, look, Brad, I totally agree with everything you've said, bro. And, those are half my notes, so well done. Look, I love the song. That Led Zeppelin 3 era doesn't get a lot of love by some fans, and but, one thing we appreciate, though, when we read some of the material and watch some of the films, Simon, we realize it's an important period for the band as songwriters and musicians too, where they had to sort of dissolve a lot of the stuff that they had in the past, and they had to sort of come out in a different way. And, we kind of get that because we're all musicians to degrees ourselves. So we know what that's like. When you consider, Brad, what you were doing 10 years ago, Simon, what you were doing 10 years ago musically, and maybe even, 5 minutes ago, if we're lucky enough, we can find ourselves on that journey. And that's one of the great things that I like, about Led Zeppelin, that period, Brad. And Simon, you've nailed it. What a great version of a song, though. Chris's vocals are fantastic. You've mentioned the BVs, Brad, so I won't get into that. And the swing from the band, not only musically with their instruments, but with their presence as the vocalists, Brad. I think you've hit on something really, really great about the song, was the band members' contribution to this track. And look, because of that, bro, I've given it 10 out of 10 as well. Great song.
Yeah,
awesome.
Weird that it wasn't on anything else, really, wasn't it? Weird it was just stuck away as a B-side to a single. So,
correct.
Yeah.
And Jacob Fish is here in the chat, and everyone is saying hi to Jacob Fish. So thank you, folks in the chat, for welcoming new people as ever. You guys in the chat are incredible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to see you, Jacob Fish. Thanks for
joining us.
Hope you find it fun. So track 3 is getting back into the sort of me is a version of "You Shook Me," which is very much again back in that proper Led Zeppelin territory. Slide starts, going to have basically a slow, heavy blues, and he's got. I mean, you've got with three. Oh, I've said it a lot on this, but it's true. The the three guitars give it a massive sound.
Yeah.
I mean, this is on headphones. It's like woo on my stereo. Yeah, it's huge, and the drums thunder, and I don't feel sorry, but the bass player just has to just hold it down, doesn't he? He doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't do anything flash. Doesn't need to interfere. Just keep down the bottom end and just keep it solid, and we'll all be good.
Yeah.
As everybody else is going nuts. But, great singing from Chris Robinson. I think this is still in his wheelhouse with that blues kind of vibe to it. And he to his credit, he doesn't try and do a Robert Plant. He sticks with what he can do, and I think that's to his credit. And and there's harp solos, there's slide guitar dueling in the solo. There's straight guitar solo. There's extraordinary sort of soloing going on, and clearly this is a showcase for the guys to get their guitars out and show us what they can do. And they do fantastically, and it's a classic song, isn't it? And they do it brilliantly, and they make a an 8 minutes whistles past in the twinkling of an eye, and they're blasting away, having a fantastic time. 10 out of 10 from me, never a skip. Absolutely, right in it. Brad.
Yeah, Simon, it's a you shook me. It's a monster version of it, really, isn't it? I mean, I know Zeppelin covered the song a couple of times, and it's been released in a couple of different releases by Zeppelin. But this is a fantastic version of it. I think Chris Robinson, he really nails the blues vocal with a bit of swagger. Killer blues harp playing as well. Let's be honest, he's a fantastic harp player. And Jimmy Page, I mean, he's obviously playing a bit of slide there. I think he plays it in a standard tuning though, guys. I'm not 100% sure there. Don't quote me on that. But Jimmy Page actually plays a slide, all that slide stuff. But he does do a guitar solo in this song in standard tuning. So I don't know whether. I don't think he swapped guitars out, and I don't think he was using a double neck. So
does his guitar still have those switches that he can switch tunings?
Oh yeah, it could have been that possibly. I'm not sure whether he had the Transperformance guitar, possibly. But I was really impressed with his vocal slide playing. Very classic Jimmy Page slide. You know what I mean? He was well known for how he played that is perfectly Jimmy Page. I'm going to say this, Audley Freed, he's really, in this package, has really surprised me quite a lot. I know he was a good player with the Black Crowes, but, for his replacement to come into the Black Crowes and really just take Mark Ford's spot in the band, but then obviously in playing Zeppelin stuff, he's really embraced it. You can tell he's a huge fan. He's a very smooth, blues player. So the first solo is actually Audley Freed. It's in the left speaker. And I have to say he's becoming a standout favourite player of mine. He's really shining, unbelievable playing. The second solo is Rich Robinson, I'm assuming, because it's the far right speaker. He follows it with a raunchy, ripping sort of solo, very raw, controlled, and the phrasing, sometimes I'm picking the phrasing even John Lennon-ish. He's got a little bit of that sort of raunchiness to his playing, which I love. Jimmy Page returns for the final solo, and that's not slide. He's actually playing. It's typical Jimmy Page. He's right on the edge. wild, ready to fall down the stairs, but never actually does. and it keeps it together, and it sounds fantastic. There is a little bit of B3 or something through a Hammond going on there. The bass playing by Sven is just minimalistic but perfect. And Steve Gorman behind the drums, he's just got that wonderful sort of feel that he has and brings it to the track. And it's a massive outro jam to close it out. Look, let's be honest, it's pretty cool. 10 out of 10, guys, never a skipper. It's a beautiful example of a song to stretch out for the band. So, Andrew.
Yeah, well done, bro. And good to see again people having a great conversation here in our chat. It's what it's all about. Appreciate it. Brad, I'm glad you mentioned the fact that Led Zeppelin have given us a couple of versions already of this song live, which is good, and we're not doing comparisons, are we, between these tracks and Led Zeppelin tracks in a serious kind of way, but it's important, for us as fans to sort of link back and sort of see those connecting things, Simon, and that's fine, isn't it, to do? We're allowed to do that. And when you're talking about one of the greatest bands in the history of rock and roll, Brad, everything is going to be compared to Led Zeppelin. So, it's just a fact of life. And see, I'm wearing my Led Zeppelin shirt, and I have to thank Brad for that because that's a Christmas present that he sent this year. So, Brad, thank you for that, bro. It's one of my favorite shirts.
No problem,
yeah, thank you, bro. One of the great things that I love about this track, and we've mentioned it a couple of times before when it comes to slide guitar intros or leads, we got to remember that lead or that intro piece is as old as the hills. These guys were playing that same riff in the 1920s and the 1930s, Simon and Brad, and we were lucky enough to do, a Robert Johnson, who were the other two guys? Robert Johnson, all these names are my show a couple of weeks ago where we spoke a little bit about that, where these guys were doing stuff in the 20s and the 30s, and this is exactly what Led Zeppelin got from this song, didn't they, Brad? When they formed the band, they knew exactly where they were getting this from. And, they've just reinterpreted it for a 1990s fan, and now they've given it to everybody else on Spotify, for as long as digital music exists. Look, I love it. I think it's a great interpretation of a great, great song. Simon, I'm going to mention one thing before I pass it over because, guys have done such a great job. You mentioned the bass player. The bass playing on this track is fantastic. It's phenomenal, Simon. You said it. And it's one of those interesting things. And we've had a couple of bass players on the show. We had Simon Hosford's bass player, Jason, on a couple of years ago talking to us about the intricacies of bass playing. And we had Matty from where was he from?
Estonia,
the Czech Republic.
That's right.
Talking to us about bass playing, and we know this because some of the greatest musicians we follow are bass players, and they've told us one of the hardest things a bass player can do all night long is just play those root notes in and out, Brad.
Yes.
Without speeding up or slowing down, and not everybody can do that. No. So sometimes you just have, and it takes a different kind of temperament because all you're doing, Brad, is just hitting 3 root notes for 5 songs, 10 minutes long. That's it, bro.
It certainly tests a musician, and I've always said this. It sets, the difference between like what you would say an A grade musician or a B grade or a C grade or whatever. In my opinion, it's not technical ability; it's playing for the song. And Sven does that marvelously well. Yeah,
100%. 100%. And it's just a classic example of just doing that. You know, you don't need to, you know, put 5 passing notes in between, you know, 2 root notes, Simon. You don't need to. Sometimes it's just too much, you know. And yeah. So yes, Simon, well done for mentioning that in your piece too. I've got to back you up there. I've made a note there. Great song. Brad, it couldn't be anything other than a Brad score for me. I just, you know, I'm sorry if I'm biased to the album. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. It's fine. I think one of the interesting things, Andrew, about the bass playing is that if you're John Paul Jones, you've got one guitar player, you've got space to fill up, so you've got stuff to do, haven't you? When you're in a band with 3 guitar players and keyboards, you're going, do you know what? I don't need to mess up, you know. And the drummer is clearly very important, and you know, right in there, you know. Sven does a fantastic job, just kind of settling in, just, you know, keeping the bottom end going, and you know, you know, because that's the job, isn't it? Right there with all those other instruments, you know, he doesn't have to do half of what John Paul Jones has to do. Yeah. You know, when he does brilliantly, he does a fantastic job of doing it.
No, that was a great job. Great job.
Leave us a comment, Sven.
Yeah. Come on the show. Come on the show.
Come on the show. Come on the show. Talk about it. We'd love to have you. That'd be fun. Yeah. Anyway, so track 3, hopefully, yes. No, track 4 even, is Out on the Tiles, which is another Led Zeppelin song. Back to the canon. Again, much shorter, much tighter, 3.5 minutes, 3 minutes 40, I think, something like that. You know, that great descending riff that they play, and then that into that funky kind of, you know, bit, you know, and the drumming is, you know, I know I say it all the time, but the drumming is fantastic. You know, very difficult job to do John Bonham without doing John Bonham, and to make the songs have, you know, this has got that kind of funky feel to it, that with the stop-start riff and things, that, you know, if you don't play the drums right, it's going to sound wrong, isn't it? It's going to be, so, you know, I think that that's a really important part of it, that being able to do that drumming. And you know, the guitars are great, they're so tight, playing the riff together, stuff, you know, it's you know, clearly they're fantastic musicians, you know, lock in together. So, you know, and it just sounds huge. You know, and they keep it tight, and they keep it to 3.5 minutes, 3 minutes 40, and you know, kind of keeping it to its sort of cool pop rock kind of roots, you know, which song is based in, you know, is that 3 minute genre, and some nice guitar riffing to the end. So yeah, again, 10 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. You know, it's a great version of it. You know, the sound is fantastic, and you know, and as I say, they don't, you know, they keep it in the same wheelhouse as the song they're doing. They don't wander off and start, you know, this. But you know, particularly by just, Brandon, you know this, when you're in a covers band, you know, you say, we're going to cover this song. Yeah. Whatever you do and whoever you are, a bit of you comes out in it, doesn't it? You know,
always.
You know, a bit of you's in there, and I think that's the case with this. You know, there's a lot of the Black Crowes in all of the stuff, but you know, but it has that Led Zeppelin basis. So hats off to them for doing it. Yeah. So 10 out of 10 for me, and never a skip. What do you reckon?
Out on the Tiles. I mean, it's one of those songs from Zeppelin 3 that, for me, it's always, you know, overlooked. I think, you know, it's one of those songs that does get overlooked a little bit. And when you hear it played in a band with 3 guitar players, you're actually hearing it presented proper, in my opinion, because there's a few parts to this guitar wise, and I love how they've covered them perfectly. It is a bit of a sleeper, this song, the Zeppelin riff I'm talking about, and it's come to life here. I think Steve Gorman on the drums, he pretty much owns it. I mean, he's got that real syncopated groove, perfect. It's dry, it's crisp, it's punchy. Again, you can't recreate John Bonham, but he's done a wonderful job, like you said, Simon, you know, laying it down and giving it some Bonham strut with that Crows sort of drumming. You know what I mean? It's the Black Crows drummer playing John Bonham. He's not trying to be. Jimmy Page, I mean, he's that Les Paul into a high gain, overdriven sort of sound. It's slightly brighter than the previous, you know, tones where it's a bit heavier. He plays with a lot of articulation, and Rich and Audley on the other guitars, they're playing so tight and powerful. They're unison riffing, and then they do all the dynamic fills that are missing if it was only one guitar playing the song. I think Chris Robinson, his phrasing here is a little bit looser vocally, which is that Southern rock thing. You know, he's given it a bit of Southern rock, and channeling Robert Plant to an extent, but still, you know, like you said, Simon, you know, it's the Black Crowes covering Led Zeppelin. They're always going to give a little bit of their own signature to the song, and I think the way they've done it is fantastic. The outro's nailed. I think Steve Gorman here is the highlight of the song for me, though. On that groove, he's relentless. And look, I can't give it anything but a 10 out of 10, guys, and never a skip. Andrew.
Cheers, mate. Alan, out on the tiles, great vocals, and love the drums. And I'm going to sum up exactly what Alan has said. Those are my notes too, and what you've just mentioned too as well, Brad. You know, Steve's contribution to this track. What a riff, though, Simon. You know, they played it so well. And bit of a sleeper track, Brad. You know, it's and nice to see, and you know, look, I don't know, you know, we that's probably a show. We could go back and, you know, pick 10 of our favorite sleeper tracks that were hidden and, you know, repackaged packages, you know, because there's been some great ones over the years, and I think this is you know, one of those great tracks, and you know, that they turn up for it, and you know, they've got that appeal, you know, that crosses over from, you know, both the bands. But yeah, definitely Steve Gorman's contribution, and I haven't mentioned him a lot, guys, in the 3 shows that we've done, because, you know, you guys have done so well talking about him, but he just has a simple setup, you know. There's not a lot of technology going on with him. Clearly, their sound man, whoever does their sound for him, is very, very good, because that simple setup that he has of just one kick, a snare, a floor tom, and I think he just has one tom, Brad. I don't think he has 2 toms. It's I think his setup is Charlie Watts' setup.
Yeah.
You know, so when you think of that, Simon, that's an incredible sound he's getting from a basic drum setup. So yeah, top marks to the guy.
But Bonham didn't have a huge drum set either, did he? I mean, he didn't have his drum set wasn't huge, but for most of this stuff, it was, you know, it's I'm always reminded of the great Max Weinberg, who has, you know, 4 drums and seems to get a tremendous row out of it.
Well, let's put it this way, you know, they know Mike Portnoy's from Dream Theater, are they, Brad? You know, where they got 50 drums.
No.
You know,
Neil Peart,
or Neil Peart from
Rush.
No. Yeah. So look, I've given this 10 out of 10 too, guys, and guess what, Simon? It's never a skip.
Absolutely not. Well, you wouldn't, would you? You would. Why would you skip? It's only 3 minutes 40. You know, what's the skip for?
Great.
Great. So the next track is back in the Mount Rushmore of Led Zeppelin songs. Definitely. Oh, look, it's Alan Carver. Good morning, Alan. How are you? Hope you're good.
Hey, Al. Good to see you, bro.
Yeah, good to see you, man. Sad I missed the 2000 performance of the Crows Page tour in Houston. So rare since I didn't take advantage of seeing Page live, and I've regretted it since. Too broke then. Oh, that's bad luck.
Yeah,
but we've got the records as a as a second best now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds phenomenal. You know, it's great the way they presented it.
Kev the Caveman.
Yeah,
Mr. Bonomas
he's done an amazing job with it. Amazing mixing job.
Yeah. So the next track, Mount Rushmore of Led Zeppelin songs, A Whole Lot of Love. You know, approach with caution, I think. But you're right if you've got Jimmy Page doing it, haven't you? Years ago, and it crossfades into done it from the previous track. It crossfades into and off they go, and again, huge sound, because they're all doing it and playing the classic riff, and there's some slide in there. Again, the drums, and I think the interesting thing about the drums is when they come to do the kind of instrumental breakdown in the middle, which they keep pretty short, by the way. They don't wander on. It's not a sort of 10-minute vocal sort of exercise with the Plant doing all that really high stuff and all the echoey stuff with the guitar. They keep it pretty tight and pretty short. It's only under 6 minutes, this song in total. So, which I think is the right decision. I think that's absolutely the right decision. You pay, you signal it, signpost it, but you're not going to do the full, the full 10 minutes, with the theremin and everything else going on. I think that's, I think that's the right thing to do. You stick to the riff and you stick to the classic bit, and the rest will work itself out. But I mean, even in that impressive bit, the drums are driving it forward in much more than John Bonham ever did. And that he used to back right off just to be some simple stuff, didn't he? But and then they have that the instrumental break is just over a minute. It's yeah, it's and I think that's really good. And then 236, they're back in with the classic riff, to bring it back in, and again you move further down, they've got the way down inside bit and things, which Chris Robinson does really well, acquits himself by with that, and then you've got the sort of wah-wah guitar and the drums bring back the classic riff, and then you've got some sort of wah-wah guitar solo over the sort of ascending bit, key change bit at the end, which is really cool. But as I say, I think it's a great version of it. I think they keep it tight, they keep it focused. They don't try and do the sort of 25-minute, 30-minute version in the way that old Led Zeppelin do. And I think it's the better for it, to be honest. That you don't try that. Keep it tight, and so 10 out of 10 for me, never a skip. And this technically, because at the end he says good night, I guess technically that's the end of the concert, and then we get into the sound check stuff. But anyway, Brad, over to you.
Well, I mean, we all know this riff backwards, don't we? Whole Lot of Love, and it's great how they weave it straight in from Out on the Tiles, the way it ends. The way it drops in is perfect. I love how all three guitars sync up. Chris Robinson gives it everything he's got. Full throttle vocal performance from start to finish. Obviously Jimmy Page, the solo, he's got the theremin, he's got a Trance-Performance guitar in this one, I think, because you can hear the guitar sort of ducking up and weaving with the tunings on the Trance-Performance guitar. Then it melts into that wah-driven sort of, the dun dun with the wah pedal. I love how he does that. Classic live Page, unhinged, not precise, but ready to fall down the stairs at any time, but doesn't do that and keeps it on track. I love how Rich Robinson and Audley Freed, they lock into this rhythm playing, and they use. There's something that's really cool about the way they do the guitars on this whole performance, and they cover all the guitar parts so wonderfully well. So, you know, while one guitar's going in the chorus, for example, where they're going "Want a Whole Lot of Love," and you got the slide guitar bit, while the rest of the other two guitars are playing the riff, which and Jimmy Page was always well known and well documented. Playing this live, he would always sort of mix it up a little bit, the way he would play that chorus there. So it's good to hear all those spread of guitars playing fairly authentically, but obviously in a live setting, they're keeping it spontaneous as well. I think Steve Gorman, you know, is the driving engine of this. He's slamming it, he's guiding them, he's leading them to where they've got to go. I agree with you, Simon. It's good that they keep it fairly muscular and lean with the arrangement. They don't stretch it out too much. It probably would have been worse if they had done that, because that was something that was fairly unique to Led Zeppelin, and I'm glad they kept it, you know, fairly sort of lean and muscular, and didn't expand it too much. The outro is very explosive, and I think the whole overall performance is done so wonderfully well. It would have been, let's just say, it would have been, you know, the equivalent to me seeing Page and Plant back in 95 or 96, where it was the Entertainment Centre in Sydney twice, 2 nights in a row. And it would have been equally as exciting for me to see the Black Crowes with Jimmy Page, because I love the Black Crowes as well. So, yeah, I've given this a 10 out of 10, guys, and never a skip. Andrew.
Cheers, mate. Brad Cook loves this song, and guess what? Brad Pitt loves it too.
Wow, what can I say?
It's the opening track. If you guys haven't seen that great film F1, go and see it, because you get blown away, getting blown out of your seat because of A Whole Lot of Love's the opening track, and you've got this F1 car
is it nice
streaming down the track.
I'm watching it now.
Oh man, you got to go and check it out. You got to go and check it out. I'm just doing a bit of a plug. If you want to go and watch some good bullshit without being preached to, without being told what to think, without being put on any political agendas, and just go and watch a great film because it's great, go and watch it.
Yeah,
fully
that's
recommend.
what we need. Great. I think we will.
Hey, mate, and you can take the whole family to watch it too.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So you can sit there comfortably with your kids and your wife and watch it, and there's nothing there. It's going to get in the way. Anyway, back to the music. So what did I say? Brad Cook loves this song, and Brad Pitt loves it. So
Brad Cook, Brad Pitt. There's hardly any difference.
The two Brads love them. Then what more is there to say? You might as well give it a 10 out of 10.
Skip. Oh no, I've got to give it a Brad score.
Oh, even better. Even better.
That's it,
nice
Simon.
One. Nice one. Brad score. That's it for all the Brads.
I'll just say one thing though. One thing. Brad mentioned it. Brad Cook, by the way, not Brad Pitt. You've got to make that quite clear. All right, we're talking about Brad Cook here. You know, not Brad Pitt. We're talking about the
good-looking one, the young, good-looking one.
Thanks, Simon.
You know, that riff, that intro riff. That's if that's not the first riff you've learnt to play on the guitar, or your second or third, it's in your top 5 riffs. It's certainly one that you know, I've had the pleasure of saying to you guys, when I first nailed that opening riff down, I thought I had the keys to the universe, Simon. You know.
Yeah.
In the engine of that old parked car.
Yeah, green wasn't green anymore. Red wasn't red. Blue wasn't blue. You know, the world was a different, whole different thing after learning that riff, Brad. It's a rite of passage, isn't it?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
So Brad Cook, Brad Pitt, Brad Score, Simon.
That's succinct. That's what I call a review. Nice one. So now we get into the second half, which hello, welcome, which is stuff. I mean, clearly, I think, as I said earlier, kind of for the fans, and I think that's fine. So this is the sound check material. So recordings of them running through the songs at sound check, and starting off with the great Custard Pie from Physical Graffiti. Yeah, it's and clearly this is the second track on the first disc. So it's opening second song on it. So thank you, John. Again, a huge guitar riff and with keys as well. And I noticed that all of these the soundcheck versions are heavier than the live versions. They've got more guitar. I mean, maybe production. I don't know what it was, but need to be heavy. But it's a great song. They do a fantastic version of it. And it's a great harp solo, nice wah-wah solo, pretty close to the original. Again, they keep it tight. It's 5 minutes. Don't stretch it out. It's a complete bang from start to finish. 10 out of 10 for me, and never a skip. Because you can never have too much Led Zeppelin, and you can never have too much Custard Pie. And just as a kind of when I went to that pedal show experience day, and that's what I played on Mick Taylor's Murphy Page Gibson Les Paul. Whacked, cranked out a bit of cranked out a massive bit of Custard Pie, leaning back into it.
As you should. And I'd be extremely disappointed if you didn't.
No, there I go. Really loud.
Oh, yeah. You got it. Simon, I always do that at sound check when they go through drums, bass, and they go, okay, guitar, and then my first notes are dun, 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 dun,
well done.
That's my sound check.
But do you then turn around and look at the rest of the band and go, "Where are you?"
Yeah, as it should be. We should always be sound checking with Custard Pie.
Custard Pie. It's now in the Brad Cook rules of being in a band. Yeah. Thou shalt always sound check to Custard Pie.
Every band I've ever been in to this day, the first notes I play when they go, "It's your turn at soundcheck to test guitars," is Custard Pie. I'm not lying.
No, it's fun. No, I agree completely. I think we should. I think that should now be in the rules.
It's a rule now.
It's the rule now. That's what you will do.
That's right. Custard Pie. Look, it's what more can we say? We discussed it on one of the earlier discs when they performed it live. But as I said at the header of this show, the soundcheck stuff is always interesting to listen to, in my opinion. I mean, this is for the fans. This is people that have listened to disc 1 and 2. Maybe by disc 3 they're not that interested in hearing the sound check, but for the fans, we get to hear these guys sound checking. You know what I mean? It's raw, it's brilliant. I mean, I've got to say, it makes you feel like you're standing side of stage listening to them sound check. Chris Robinson delivers a committed vocal. Earlier in the show, I said, in sound checks, a lot of the times, myself included, you don't give 100% vocal delivery because you don't want to damage your voice or blow your voice out before the performance. You want to save your voice for the performance. But Chris Robinson just goes for it. It's like, doesn't matter. I'll just go for it. I mean, maybe he had youth on his side or whatever, but I think it comes down to confidence. He knew he could deliver and do it properly and respectfully. So he probably thought, well, if these boys are doing it as tight and as well as they are, I should probably step up to the mark. Jimmy Page, you know, he's got that chunky Les Paul riff at the intro, and obviously the whole song is a wall of guitars. I love that. They've got all the guitar parts covered, which sounds great. I love the you know, the amount of drive he's got on the Les Paul in the soundcheck version is a little bit more than when they played it earlier in the disc 1 or 2, whatever it was. A bit chunkier, but it sounds great. And I love the wah drenched solo again. You know, very classic Jimmy Page. What can you say? It was what can you do? There's a very tight syncopated sort of rhythm guitar playing by Rich Robinson and Audley Freed, both great players in their own right, obviously, as we've been saying. But I do love how Steve Gorman, how well he plays on this track. It's so open. He's got the groove down, and it's thick. You know what I mean? It's thick. He's locked in with Sven on the bass, and it sounds phenomenal. And, you know, big shout out to Chris Robinson. He's a phenomenal blues harmonica or harp player. So that little outro from Chris Robinson is almost a highlight for me. Sounds fantastic. I've given it a 10 out of 10, and you know, thank goodness that Kevin Shirley, you know, pushed to get this soundcheck stuff on to disc 3. Andrew.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult sometimes, isn't it, in your mind to be kind of ranking sound checks. I don't think we've ever done that on the show, guys. I think we've I don't, you know, we've always sort of ranked official tracks or re-releases. I don't think we've ever had in all the years we've been doing this sound checks or demos. So it's kind of hard in my mind to rank it because the band's not really offering that, Simon, are they, as a serious piece of music other than, you know, a demo or a sound check.
Yeah.
But Brad hit the nail on the head. What it gives fans like us, and that's what we appreciate when bands get together and they get these demo songs, don't they, Brad? And they get their rehearsal songs and they get their sound check songs and they put them on a package and we go, we eat it up, Simon. We love it. And we go, why can't everybody else do this? You know, because don't you want to hear the genesis of a song, Simon? I do, you know, and when bands have released it, you know, and we've had conversations here on the show, you know, well, wow, listen to, this is the second time that they played it in the studio. And then you go and listen to what was released and it's like, wow, you know, the genesis of the song, you've got it there. And we can do a show and we can spend 2 hours, Brad, talking about it. But you know, so it's not a criticism, folks, you know, at all. I just think it's just smart and clever. I don't know who was responsible for keeping these recordings, whether it was Jimmy Page or the Black Crowes. We know that Jimmy Page is very, very very conscious about recording a lot of the stuff that he does, Brad, don't we? You know, he likes to have a record of that, and I think pretty much the Black Crowes bought into that kind of feeling too. So that doesn't really matter who's responsible for it. We've got it. Brad, you know, this song channels Led Zeppelin, doesn't it, to the brim, and it overflows. That glass of Led Zeppelin, this overflows, you know, with that wah solo that you mentioned, and also Chris Robertson's harp playing. It's just a phenomenal song. I'm glad we've got it, and I've given this a Brad score.
Yes. now the question is, did you give the second track on disc one a Brad score as well?
Yes.
So I'll just be mischievous now. Yeah, I gave the other one 4. I give this one a Brad score. That'll be fun. Anyway, so I agree. I mean, as I've said, this is, you know, these tracks are stuff that the fans like, don't they? You know, bit of peeking behind the curtain, you know, to behind the scenes, you know, stuff, and a bit more relaxed, bit more, you know. But you're right. It shows how kind of committed they are, and how, you know, and how organised they are, because, you know, this is pretty complete stuff, isn't it? You know, don't deviate much from the from you know, the versions that are on the previous 2 discs. And it's the same exactly with You Shook Me, which is the, you know, the next track, which is only about 4 tracks ago. It you know, it pretty much, you can see that, you know, they've worked it out, they've got all the bits in place. Again, this probably has a bit of a heavier, you know, somehow the guitars and stuff are a bit heavier on this than they are when they play it live. Not quite sure how that works. Maybe they eased it up a little bit, maybe. But, you know, again, it's got that, you know, slide intro. It's got some nice piano on it as well. The piano's a bit more prominent on this track. You know, pokes through a variety of places. Great solo for Jimmy Page. You know, blistering clusters of notes. You know, it's a classic fashion. The bass is a bit more prominent, I think, than on the one further up. Keys as well, a bit more keyboard playing, but, you know, pretty much sticking to the same times, pretty much the same structure of it and things. So as we said, some great harp solo from Chris Thompson as well. Really nice harp thing, and a nice little sort of drop down towards the end, you know, and Chris and Jimmy dueling to the end, back and forth. It's you know, and then they have, at the end, they do have a little bit of a discussion as to the final structure, don't they? They start talking about, then you do this and you do this kind of thing, which is pretty cool. But yes, glimpse behind the curtains of a band getting it together. I get this a 10 out of 10. You know, never a skip. It's you know, because we all like that sort of thing. Right.
Yeah. Simon, you pretty much summed up everything I've got here. I mean, look, You Shook Me. It's, you know, this is a sound check, and I mean, you sometimes I had to remind myself I was listening to a sound check. I don't want to repeat too much of the notes I put from earlier in the show with You Shook Me, but this is a blues jam in its purest form. It's a little looser than the live version. Obviously, it's a sound check. Chris's vocal, though, is in top form. I mean, it's soulful, it's intense. He's singing wonderfully well, very powerful on it. Yeah, Jimmy Page, I mean, you know, his slide work is fantastic. I mean, we said that earlier. I mean, he leaves a little bit more room for Rich and Audley to sort of breathe in the song on this one as opposed to the live one, I've noticed, ever so slightly. Each take extended solos in this, respectfully so. They interplay. You know, they're not trying to outdo each other. They're just doing, you know, their thing every time the solo comes to each member. It's their thing. But Steve Gorman and Sven, the drummer and bass player, in my opinion, you know, they're really holding it down for the rest of the band. So they're like the anchor point for this song, in my opinion, and they did an amazing job. Like I did with the live version, the sound check gets a 10 out of 10 as well. Never a skip. I'm glad it's an inclusion because, again, I think it's a wonderful thing that they put this sound check stuff on here for us. I mean, I would love all my favorite bands to do the same thing on a 3-disc set. Give us some sound check stuff, because that's when they try stuff too. That's what I'll put it out there. in a sound check is when you play it safe. You can try stuff. Not play it safe, sorry. That's what you do on stage live. In a sound check, you go for it a little bit more, and if you mess up, well, you don't do that in a live performance. I will say this: it's really cool that they do the whole song in sound checks, and Chris Robinson singing on the whole thing as well. Because a lot of bands, when they sound check, they'll might do half a song and then go, right, we're done. Next song, they'll just go do one that's more keyboard heavy. This, that. They obviously spent a bit of time sound checking, which because they probably really loved doing this project. So yeah. Anyway, sorry for waffling there, guys. Andrew.
That's true.
Yeah. Look, I love the song. I gave it a Brad score a couple of songs ago, Simon. So, you know, why wouldn't I give it a Brad Cook score again? You know, so Brad Pitt score.
Brad Pitt score. Brad Pitt stop.
Yeah.
No, love it. Thanks, guys, for your input there on that. But yeah, fully endorse what you guys have said. So Brad score, Simon.
Yeah. Well, yeah, as it should be. Yes, because they're pretty much the same. You know, very close to the ones that are on the sort of released recording. So, you know, they're not, and I think that's clearly they've worked out the arrangements and they're sticking to those arrangements, and I think that's sensible move. Absolutely. Yeah. Brad, as you say, you can mess about in do a bit of in the sound checks and stuff, but when you get to the real thing, you got to focus. But clearly they focused on it and they've got these things nailed down, what they're going to do, who's going to do it, and I think that it shows on these things that they're so close to what you've got on the live recordings that the cigarette papers between them in many ways, isn't it? Slightly different nuances of them, but they're pretty much, and that is the case with the next song, the Lemon Song. Again, that's on on the second disc, and pretty much again you've got that huge riff at the beginning, and when he's singing, that kind of sort of down on the killing floor bit at the beginning stuff. I mean, it's all fantastic. You've got this sort of nice drop downs to bass, the organ, and again those amazing drums, funky drums that Steve Gorman manages to keep it going through. Got a bit of an organ solo as well, so there's a bit of instrumental stuff, and then you've got the sort of double time section with the guitar solos. That's really nice. As you say, Brad, played all the way through, played properly. Everyone's singing all the way through. Nobody's just going, yeah, I'll do it with that in that bit or whatever. It's just blasting from beginning to end. And some nice guitar stuff at the end, and a nice double time in the last double time with solo as well. And then at the end you've got the vocals and the guitar, so doing a bit of a call and response stuff at the end. So again, 10 out of 10 and never a skip. I mean, absolutely, it's a great version, and pretty close to the recorded one. Brad.
Yeah, I feel like I'm repeating a little bit of what you're saying there, Simon, so I won't. But I like how they've got the extended sort of groove exploration, I'll put it that way. Chris Robinson, again, soulful, strong. Considering it's a warm-up and a sound check, he's just giving it. Sven on the bass, he really lets loose. There's some John Paul Jones vibes there, but he's got his own greasy sort of stuff going on there, which is cool. Because let's be honest, nobody is John Paul Jones other than John Paul Jones. There's no point trying to be a carbon copy, because you'll never get there. Jimmy Page, I mean, is locked into that intro. It's great when all the guitars come in together. It sounds massive. It's a big wall. I do believe that they obviously, between soundcheck and playing live, they might have cleaned up the guitar tones a little bit, Simon and Andrew, to get a little bit more transparency instead of it being too mushy, which I think was a really wise move, because yeah, as we know, three guitars playing the same thing can potentially get a bit muddy, and I guess the dynamics get lost. But they do a great job at nailing that. Page plays some loose kind of blues licks throughout the bass middle section, and there's some wild phrasing and stuff that he does. I like the keyboard of the Rhodes style thing or whatever that's going on in the background. It's very subtle. It's a very cool soundcheck version of the Lemon song. Yeah, hard to sort of give it anything but a 10 out of 10, guys. Never skip. Andrew.
Yeah, I gave the official track, Brad School, surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
One of my favorite songs ever, you know. And again, I've mentioned it before, you know, there's a lot of history with this track, you know, it goes back, it's an archaeology for the band, you know, and we're not going to beat them over the head about where the song came from, you know, it's Led Zeppelin's interpretation, and it's Jimmy Page's interpretation with the Black Crowes.
Yeah.
You know, and he can do with it what he wants. I just have to say that I agree with you guys. I'm just glad that as fans, you know, we've got this to listen to, and you know, I'm going to be urging people, you know, to go and check out the third disc, because there's a lot of stuff there to mine. Brad School, Simon.
Yeah, it's fine. Cool. So the next track is 10 Years Gone. I think Midnight. Yes, that's right.
Yep.
Lemon song.
Yep.
So
that's it.
Penultimate track. So again, you know, they've worked it out. They play all the way through the same thing. It's pretty much, interestingly, there's only about 3 seconds between this version and the one on the first disc. So clearly the interesting. I mean, 10 Years Gone is classic Led Zeppelin, isn't it, from Physical Graffiti? You know, and really it's about the dynamics and about, you know, the loud and the quiet bits, and, you know, some fantastic the way that they have arranged it with this, you know, with lots and lots of parts. There's piano, there's organ, there's, you know, guitars doing all sorts of things, and that, you know, you can go and listen to it, and, you know, guitars playing harmony parts with the organ or over the organ, and you know, and you know, and the difference between the loud and the quiet bits, and you've got sort of instrumental jam at the end. I mean, it's amazing, you know, the amount that's crammed into this song, and you know, I mean, you know, bears repeated listenings, because it's, you know, they do a fantastic job. It's a great version. 10 out of 10 from me, and never skip. Go and listen to it, as you know, because to get all the nuances of it, and there are many. But it's a lesson in, as I say, to me, this is one of those great lessons in dynamics, how you put together a song with different sections, different dynamics, different parts, different playing. It's just, you know, it's a masterclass in all of that in my book. So yeah, 10 out of 10 for me, never a skip. Brad.
Yeah, look, 10 Years Gone, I think it's a Zeppelin classic. It's a deep cut for, you know, a non-Zeppelin fan wouldn't necessarily have maybe investigated this enough, but I think it's potentially one of the greatest achievements for Zeppelin, this song, you know, on Physical Graffiti. It's a masterpiece, and I think, like I said, you know, when we went through this, I think it was disc 2. It was on. You know, this is a real good glimpse at how they rehearsed the layers of guitars, and you can really hear it here, more so than the live version, because we get that opportunity at the end where they do play even without drums for a bit, making sure they've got the parts right, and really nailing it. I think though the tone of the guitar for Jimmy Page is chiming a lot more on this version than the live version. Rich, and, you know, nails the opening chord voicings, you know, the backing parts of this song. There's so many layers of guitar here. So Audley and Rich add those textures to add it. I mean, I don't think Page could pull this song off. I'm sure he could pull it off on his own, but sounding as fantastically as is. And I'm sure it would have put a smile to Jimmy Page's face at the first time they played this together, with all these layers and textures of guitars there. I love how Audley Freed adds that subtle wah, and he puts the modulation effects on some of the parts as well, like the Phase 90 or Univibe, whatever he's using there, to give that sort of rotating speaker effect or wobbly effect as well. You can hear Audley quite clearly in your left speaker playing his parts. I love it. So, Chris Robinson sings very heartfelt, pure on this. The outro is epic. I love how Jimmy keeps playing his part, and the Audley and Rich are doing the dun, 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 dun. They're playing those parts together.
Yeah,
it's like an orchestration of guitars. It's beautiful, and we are blessed with around the 6:45-minute mark onwards that they're rehearsing those transitions and harmonic parts together. It's a great insight to someone who's not in a band or not a musician, to actually see how at a sound check you will use that process sometimes to get the arrangement right. And for that reason, I'm going to give it 10 out of 10 as well, and never a skip. I was blown away to hear this soundcheck version of 10 Years Gone. The live version was epic. This was just as cool for me. Andrew?
Yeah, I'm glad they included this as the last track on the what do they call it? The sound checks. I don't know if this was the order that they put them in. I don't know, but for the sake of our conversation here on the recordings, it's the last one. So, and rightly so. I think it's the best. Gives an appreciation and interpretation again of a great song. I ranked it a Brad score. It's an important Led Zeppelin song, Brad, as you've mentioned, and again, these interpretations of these great songs with this great band is what this project's about for me. And I like the fact that we, and everyone in the chat's fully appreciating that, even a guy like Alan, who is a diehard Led Zeppelin fan, appreciates exactly what Page was trying to achieve with this. So, and Simon, I have to back up your comment. It's a shame that he didn't find a project. He was a lost soul. But perhaps on purpose. I don't think it. I don't think it was something that he wasn't. Wasn't looking for a home. I don't think he was just happy floating in and floating out. And Brad, I'm glad he floated into this project. I have to give this a Brad. I have to give it a Brad score, Simon. But I dig where you're coming from.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. As I say, so he becomes the guardian of the Led Zeppelin frame, which is fine. But for all that creative, genius, vision, but slightly sort of nerdy bit, all the recording techniques, everything that he brought to Led Zeppelin, it's a shame that, he wasn't able to develop that in, other bands properly with other people, and he just had other projects that did an album or two and then kind of fizzled out. And personally, I feel, he's such a great musician that not to have a band that he could, have as home again, I think it's a bit, is a. I mean, it's not, it's not a loss. I mean, what he did in Led Zeppelin is a fantastic, incomparable achievement in many ways, in creativity and stuff. But
I think I agree, Simon, and like I would have loved to have seen him continue doing something with the Black Crowes, because the last thing on this disc is like a jam, and you can certainly hear, which we'll go into in a second. But I would have loved to have heard, Jimmy Page do more with, say, when he did the Coverdale Page project. That for me was You know, his greatest achievement post, you know, post Zeppelin, that was his greatest achievement, in my opinion. It was a fantastic record. And yeah, it's such a shame that fizzled out because the Page Plant thing came back to life. I'm glad we got that as well, but that would have been something that I would have loved to have seen, you know, move forward as well. But yeah, anyway, enough of waffling.
Anyway, so the last track is the Jam soundcheck. Now, I have to say, boys, that I may be being heretical here, but I listened to it twice and wish I hadn't the second time. Really, I could have done without it. I could have absolutely done without it. I didn't think it. You know, I just think, you know, when it's like, there's nothing more annoying than just people just noodling around aimlessly. I may have missed the point, but that was my feeling about it. It was just, you know, I listened to the first time. I thought, blimey, you know, I could have done without that. Really, I think it, you know, 10 minutes of my life I'll never get back. So, you know, I didn't think. I mean, I'm not going to give it anything, to be honest. As I say, I won't listen to it again. I'd definitely skip it. You know, if you found something, tell me if you found something of more merit in it that I missed, because I could be being an idiot, which is entirely true. So, but yeah, I didn't really. I could have done without it. I don't know why they put it on. Really, just, you know, the soundcheck stuff. Absolutely, you know, complete songs, complete stuff going on. I don't even mind you know, that where they in 10 years ago where they break down a bit and then come back again. That's fine, you know, because, you know, you get a feel for the whole song. This is just, you know, messing about, really. I mean, fine to mess about, I mean, but I don't think I wouldn't have put it on myself. I would have just not put it on and finished up 10 years ago. Brad, what do you think? So, you know, it gets no score from me, I'm afraid.
We'll all agree to not score it because it's not an official song, and it's not actually anything concrete. I will say this. I reckon they included it as a little peek into what could have been, or what if moment if they continued to write music together. You know, even like last soundcheck for Rewind 80s, the band I'm in, doing 80s covers, we started doing a jam and it turned into like a little song. And you know, you sort of sit back and you go, well, that could work as a song. But the more people that are involved in doing that, throwing ideas together at the same time, the more confusing it becomes, and the more should I say, frustrating it becomes. And I think there's a few spontaneous riffs there that are pretty cool. You know, Steve Gorman, Sven, the anchor once it comes in. Chris Robinson tosses in a few off the cuff lines. I don't even know if he's saying proper words. He's just putting a medley there to get a feel for it. And it feels like a track could have been born out of it. But I reckon Kevin Shirley just put it there because it was on tape and thought, well, this is going to tease people to think if they had have kept going together, they may have done some original material together. But again, I'll back you up, Simon. I only listened to it a few times this week, and that was enough for me because, you know, it does sound like there's just too many chefs in the kitchen. You know what I mean? There's too much, you know, going on. It's like, I've got an idea. Oh, I've got an idea. I've got an idea that's going to work with it. Like, I know that's how good songs can be created, but you're talking about quite a large band. So anyway, for me, I won't give it a score, but hey, it could have been left off 100% off, but I think they put it on for a reason. Andrew.
Yeah, just to say good night to Jokerfish. Jokerfish, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the show. And thanks for joining.
Good night. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining.
Johnny says we have to score it. It's on the album. zero.
Joker Fish, I sub to your channel. If you can make sure you sub to our channel so you can get some notifications, that'll be cool.
Real.
You want me to give you a ranking? I'll give it a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, Good.
Well done.
Good. I'm glad that we're on the money there, because that's there's only one set of jam tracks I ever spent my life listening to over and over and over again, and that's Derek and the Dominoes, also known as Eric Clapton and the Allman Brothers, when they released the 20th anniversary set of the Layla box set with those jams. I think there's 6 jam tracks, and I'll tell you what, that's incredible. Brad, I don't normally listen to jams at all. I'm not interested in listening to jams. If you want to, that's fine. I'd rather listen to, like we said before, the embryo of a song, Brad. I'd rather listen to Bruce Springsteen sing an acoustic version of Born in the USA, Brad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the version that came out on the box set that Simon's got, which is completely different to the one that came out on Born in the USA. These are songs, but I get it if fans want to listen to jam tracks, but I think we kind of don't. I think we've had this conversation on this channel before. I'm not a fan of them. I wouldn't listen. I think I listened to this 3 times, Simon. I don't think I'd listen to it again. I don't think there's anything there for me, to recommend anybody to go and listen to. The previous song, that's the end of the collaboration for me. Brad and Simon, I ranked this 5 out of 10 too.
See, you could have. I did 0.
5 for effort.
3.
That's a bad score.
Yeah. It's not as bad as 0, though, is it?
No. But yeah. But there's nothing there. There's nothing on a jam track.
I don't mind it being, look at seeing the workings, if you like. I feel that that very much that fine. Putting it out is, I think, pointless to me. I think that if you're working out stuff and you go back later and listen to stuff and you think, oh, that's a cool riff, we could develop that into something that's cool, whatever. That's fine. That's the internal workings of the band, and you could tell it as a story, but I don't necessarily need to hear blind distancing. Anyway, the rest of it is fantastic. Never mind, that's not what I don't know. The rest of it is a 10 out of 10 album. The Black Crowes do a fantastic job of giving Jimmy Page his vision of how it could have sounded with later Led Zeppelin, and I take my hat off to that. Steve Gorman, the drummer, just brilliant. Hands down brilliant, and the rest of the band too, but him particularly, because that's very difficult.
Simon was the only honest one.
Thank you, Johnny. Yes, tell them. Fine.
Yeah. Look, I'm glad we knocked that one off, as Sir Edmund Hillary said to the leader of the expedition when they climbed up that big mountain. He said, "We knocked that bugger off. We knocked the bugger off." So that was Brad. Definitely one between the 3 of us that has been on the list for years.
Yes.
Simon.
I think, Andrew, to be honest with you, on the channel, you're going to have to do a separate playlist for just these 3, because it's a bit of an epic task to get through the 3 discs. Bit of an epic task.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, is it Mount Rushmore? We it's a big one. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad we did it. And clearly we've had a lot of fun, Simon and Brad. I'd like to thank you guys in particular for your contributions. Brad, your intro to the first series and your intro to the second series. Simon, you continued that on with, the intro on this. And, we're just fans, guys, and we just love getting together and talking about a big part of our lives, which is music. And we're going to be back here next week with our 3 debut albums, favorite debut albums. And that's going to be interesting. We're going to do this live before well, I remember, guys, do a bit of channel homework. Who's got the pick for the next rankings, Simon?
Well, we haven't decided yet. I don't know. Who chose this one?
Who chose this one? Let's go back and have a look on the channel. I'll have a look. Hold on.
Can't remember. So long ago. Can't remember. 4 months ago.
It feels like forever ago now.
Let's go and have a look.
Doesn't it?
Just hold on.
It does feel like a long time ago.
Yeah, because the rock professor was away. Yeah. Normally we're pretty good, aren't we?
Yeah.
So if we go here to the channel and we go here to the playlists, it'll tell us live. Here we go.
I think you, Andrew, chose it. My memory is that you chose it. I don't think Brad. I didn't.
Here we go.
I think it was.
Who picked Nebraska?
Who picked Moondance?
Me. I picked Moondance.
I think I picked Jimmy Page and the Black Crows, so I think it might be you, Andrew.
Oh
my gosh. Okay.
Or did you pick the Black Crows and Jimmy Page? I don't know now.
No, I didn't. One of you guys did. One of you guys picked it. One of you guys.
John says.
Okay,
Black Communion was before that, which would have been you, Brad.
Yes.
So
I think there was 2 Guns N' Roses shows, and there was a Van Morrison ranking the tracks.
I chose that.
And then I think it's out of me or Andrew. We'll punch it out in the green room later.
Okay, cool.
Rubbish.
But so the week after.
No, I think Andrew.
Okay, Brad.
I think Andrew, it might be you because I did Black Country Communion. Then it was me. I think you picked this maybe. So I'm not sure. We'll work it out anyway. Happy to do it.
Nebraska was not ranked as Simon didn't join, and Andrew didn't want to. Nebraska.
No, I think
so we just talked about Nebraska.
Yeah, but we did 2 Gunner shows after that. Then we did Van Morrison. Then we did the first one of Jimmy Page and the Black Crows. And then we started doing haircuts, Gary Moore conversation, Richie Blackmore. That was when we were kicking on without you, Rock Professor.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, okay. I thought it was going to be easy for me. I'll go back and have a look after the show and find out who the last pick was, and then
it's going to be me or Andrew. It's not you, Simon. Because you would have picked Moondance. I'm sure you picked Moondance, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, I did. Yeah. I did.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Anyway, we'll work it out. We'll punch it out in the green room.
I expected that to be like a quick 30-second answer, but so the whole point of this conversation is that we're going to be here next week talking about our top 3 debut albums, and then the week after that, one of us is going to have a pick for an album for us to rank the week after that, and we look forward to that. May even be one of the albums that we talk about. Might even be one of those albums.
Yeah.
Well, if we haven't done them already, which is a bit technical.
We haven't done them already.
Yeah. But I'm sure there's 1 or 2 that we will have done already.
Awesome. Rock Professor, thank you for leading the show. I'm looking at the time. I've got a dog here biting at me to go for a walk. So can I ask you, Rock Professor, to do the nice channel thing that we like to do and remind people that we do appreciate them joining us on the chat. So we should say thank you.
We do. Of course, thanks to Alan, of course, to ever present. That's fantastic. So John ZD, everyone. Good to see you back, John. Hope you're good and life is treating you well. but we always love you coming back. Jokerfish, good to see you. Sleep well. But thanks for joining and making the comments. Absolutely fantastic. Johnny Heartbreaker, great as ever. Thanks, Johnny, for your continued support and keeping us on the straight and narrow. And Alan as well. Alan Gar was up late in sunny Texas. So we hope we sent you to sleep, Alan. That'd be good. One of our stated aims for our American colleagues is to nod off to the 5150 show. Nice to see you. Fantastic to hear from you. Hope you're good. Who else? Jokerfish, Ellen, John, Johnny. I think that's everyone that made comment. Besides Brad as well. But, Jim, Gas Under 50. Jim, thanks for joining, Jim. Good to see you as well. So thanks everyone for joining. Fantastic to see you. And we'll see you next week for debut albums.
Yeah.
So Brad, it must be your pick because I've just had a look while the Rip Professor was rattling off some names.
Mm-hmm.
It was Moondance, then this album part 1. So I must have picked that.
Yep. No problem.
You've got the pick for the week after next week. So we look forward to that. The Backdoor Man will pick something good.
I'll pick something good. Don't you worry.
Good. Are we out of here?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Take it away, boss.
Right. Pizza time. Is it pizza time?
Pizza time.
Bye-bye. God bless. Bye.